He is a renowned leader in the automotive industry, known for his vision and pivotal role in establishing JLR as aspirational brands in India. His journey and insights will be incredibly valuable for entrepreneurs, professionals, students, and anyone who is interested in future of mobility. So let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Rohit Suri. We would like to express our gratitude to esteemed sponsors without whom this event would not be possible. Our title sponsor Westbridge Capital, our co-title sponsor Get Farms Agritech, and our power by sponsor IITM batch of 1990. Lastly, we would like to extend our gratitude to ESummit Office, MSG 91, Clever Tap, Geo Savan, Sao Foods, and Abibus.
Alright, hello everyone. Thanks for being here. We have with us Mr. Rohit Suri sir, ex-MD and President of JLR. And we'll get started with the session. Hello sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here and to be able to share what I've been through, etc. Hopefully it will be useful to some people.
Of course. I have heard my stories myself and know. So we'll start going about your journey of how this journey to leadership of JLR came through, starting from your childhood, and then we'll go a bit sector specific to automotive industry. So starting, how did your early childhood look like?
Yeah, so I come from a small town, Bhilai. I don't know, you must have heard of Bhilai. So I'm from there. Anybody from Bhilai here? No? Okay. Sorry? Chhattisgarh. Great. He was from Chhattisgarh. So great. So, I don't know whether any of you may not know actually, but sometime in 88 or 89, the guy who stood first in JE was from Bhilai. His name was Naveen Budhiral. So he was the guy who stood first from Bhilai, from the school that I studied. So basically, I'm also from there, though I didn't get into IIT. I graduated from VNIT in Nagpur. But the thing was that I think I was very privileged that though the school was not a premium school or anything like that, it was an ordinary municipal school. But we were lucky that when the steel plant was being built, they hired or they invited engineers from all over the country. And people from all over the country, from all states of India came to actually build the plant. And therefore, my colleagues were all from all sides. So I had Bengali friends, I had Tamilian friends, I had Telugu friends, I had Malayali friends, I had Punjabi friends, so all over we got friends from all over the place. And I was fortunate enough that whole atmosphere was something which was very cosmopolitan, and my best friends to date are the people from Bhilai. So just to say that it was not a very privileged background, because my father used to work for the steel plant, my mother was a teacher. There was no Khandani wealth or anything behind us. They had to work almost like 24/7 to earn the bigger salaries that they used to earn at that time, $200-300. And obviously we were expected to, earn for ourselves and look after ourselves after taking our education. So all in all, I would say that I think I was very fortunate to have actually got that exposure itself. It taught me a lot of things as I was growing up, and that's it. I'm lucky that I was there in Bhilai. That's what I'd say.
Great. So the education time, we'll go a bit into that. You studied from VNIT in Nagpur, and that was 1986 when you graduated. What was the college time during that time like? How was your study environment?
Yeah, so the study environment, I mean, I won't call it very inspirational at that time. I think what I see now here, it looks like you guys are, in a much better environment where you seem to be motivated to learn and, upskill yourself and become capable of entering the industry. At our time, it was more like get an engineering degree and get out. And a lot of time, unfortunately, in those colleges at that time, was spent in how to outsmart the administration. So it was always about how we can actually bunk classes or outsmart teachers, not be present but still mark our attendance over there. So frankly, the college environment was not all that encouraging, very honestly. But it basically fell down upon you yourself as an individual. If you really wanted to do something, then you better kind of take care of your own. If you want to take care of your future, then you better work and work yourself and make sure that you gain something out of the education. And I have, one thing that, I don't know how relevant it is to all of you, but one thing that I have learned always, and I've been fortunate, I've always chosen my friends very, very carefully. So even in Delhi, I think I always hung around with people who I knew I could learn from. Somehow I had that intuition to hang around with people who I knew I could learn something, or I could become a better me hanging around with them. And similarly in college, I chose my friends. In the first year itself, I chose friends who were inclined towards studies, who were wanting to do something with their life. And therefore, I think that rubbed down to me also. And I ended up doing well in my academics. So I don't mind saying that I was 7th merit ranked in the university. And my two best friends, one guy stood first and the second guy stood third. So, I'm just saying that all said and done, some people don't agree to this, but company matters a lot in life. You keep good company, something good only will rub off on you. So that was my journey in college.
Yeah, I think that's rightly said. Company matters a lot. So at the end of this college, we were just talking and you told me about a very exciting incident about the computer that came at the 4th year of this.
Yeah. So I was just sharing with Sazan actually. This may be something which none of you would actually perhaps may appreciate very well, but I just want to relate this story to you because it happened in my life. So until third year of my college, I had not seen a computer monitor. I'm talking about 1985. Till 1985, I had not seen a computer monitor. I've heard about computers. Computers were being talked about a lot, etc. Big computers, supercomputers were there, etc. We all heard about it, but I had not seen a computer monitor anywhere in the institution that I was studying. In 4th year, there was one computer which came to the college, and that was kind of, belonged to one particular professor, or the one professor was in charge of it, and he used to keep it in a lock and key. Now imagine there are hundreds of students, each one is very excited about computers, but not able to access it. And I think I would have got only 15 minutes in my total time in college of having seen that computer, because they started teaching us at that time, 2 languages, basic and Fortran. And so they had an exam where they used to ask us, you have to identify control or delete key on a Viva, where is the CPU, so those kind of questions were asked, very, very basic questions. So for that, we were exposed to the computer, and that's it. But what I realized that this is very clearly something which is going to be very important as we progress in the future. So when I was doing my MBA from IITM now, after my first year, I got an internship with Godrej and Boys. And the internship was I was a mechanical student, so I got an internship in the plant, in one of the Godrej Boys plant in Bombay. And this plant used to make almirahs and locks, basically. So it was a 9 to 5 kind of, observe what is going on in the factory and do a project on how the processes are done from start to finish, etc. But I observed there that on the first floor of that office, there there was a bank of computers, these new computers. About 7 to 8 computers were there, and they were all people who were working on it. And I should look at this from far, and I was like very intrigued. Oh, here again, I see computers. Imagine that was the time. Now computers are dime a dozen. You see computers. So 9 to 5 was my job, right? I had to be on the factory floor. But then I asked my manager, can you give me? I want to learn computers. So can you please give me access to the computer? And the manager was very nice. He said yes, but you can only work after 5 o'clock. So if you want access, please you can work on the computer after 5. So I decided that 2 months of my internship that I will learn computers. So in those times we had 3 languages which had just come in. There was Lotus. I don't know whether if you know, before Excel was Lotus, and there was DBase, which was a database kind of software, and there was Word, it was a document software. So I bought 3 books, and for 2 months, from 5 to 9, I used to be sitting there alone in that factory, and I kind of mastered those 3 languages. And then what happened when I went for my first job, I realized actually that the company realized that I was the only one who knew anything, if anything, about computers. And the way I could work, none of my colleagues could work the way I could work. Because I had, so that's the whole story is that, the whole message that I thought that what was important for me and what maybe, that I realized that this was something which was a new thing. It was not taught to me in my college, in my studies. And I had to take my own initiative to make sure that I skill myself to a level where this new technology or this new thing would be helpful. And I spent that extra time. And actually from that point onwards, believe me, it set me apart from everybody. Because in that company, I was always kind of the star, because everybody loved to do things fast, and I could do them because I even learned at that time how to make macros, because macros is something, a feature of even Excel now, but earlier when Lotus had, you could build macros to, these are small programs which can help you do calculation very fast, or you can define a problem and it can help solve the problem, like bots, but very, very premature, avatar of bots. What it did for me was it just set me apart from the whole, all my other colleagues. And believe me, from that point onwards, I didn't look back. I got promotions also. I got, when I shifted jobs, to my mind it helped me there also, because people realized that this guy has something more than what is mechanical engineering that he's talking about. So that was the story, which I thought, long life, so he said, please share this, so I thought, why not share it with you guys?
That was very inspiring. This was the time of 1990 we are talking about.
Yeah.
So it was a very big deal back then to get hustle, have the foresight, okay, this is going to be the next big thing. It will learn it by all yourself. Coming to your professional career, that was the boom that you experienced, the confidence boost that you needed. How was it followed that when you actually entered Tata Motors?
Yeah, so Tata Motors happened after quite some time. Before that, a lot of other things happened. So, another question that you were asking me earlier, that how did you get into automotive? And while, I had engines and, automobiles, we had ambassadors and Fiat at that time, and they were always very intriguing. I used to hang around, on the around roadside garages to see how the mechanics who were called to start at that time, how they used to open up an engine, how they used to assist at that point of time in that particular exam. And then when I got a job, my first job was with Thermax, which was in Pune, which was a boiler company and air pollution control equipment company. I went to design of air pollution control systems. After some time, I realized that I didn't like that very much. So then I joined Reliance Steel plant. My parents used to be there, so I thought, maybe go back there, and I entered the exam, etc. I got through. And I liked that. Working in a steel plant was very, very interesting. I became so I was a maintenance engineer. So I used to literally, roam around with a spanner behind my back pocket. Got some very interesting projects to do. I was telling you one milling machine was broken and one of my senior said, go and fix that. I was a young guy, so I said, go and fix that. You seem to be very enthusiastic, go and fix the machine. So it was very interesting how I, fixed that machine. I actually studied that whole thing and, found out ultimately that there was a gear pump inside that machine which was not working properly. Opened the gear pump and managed to fix it, and then the machine started working again. So that was a very, very, kind of encouraging, experience. And then I decided that, at that point of time, I decided that I must do an MBA, because without an MBA you don't get high-paying jobs. That was the whole perception at that time. It is no longer so, but I just want to share at that time it was like that. So I did my MBA, and when I was finishing my MBA, that's the time when I went to Godrej and Boys in between, and I learned about computers, etc. But when I finished my MBA, I got a campus. I was very interested in joining a bank, because banks were the in thing at that time. So to become an investment banker, that was my actual, kind of aspirational at that time, built around because of the society's perception at that time around me. But I didn't crack that. I was targeting Citibank. I could not get into Citibank. I was shortlisted for P&G, which was a fast-moving consumer goods company. And there were 3 people selected, and I was the third one. They wanted only 2, so they selected 2, and I was again left out. But then my next company was Eicher Motors, and Eicher Motors selected me. So this was a completely an automotive kind of job. Now, so I just landed this job by coincidence. But when I went into Eicher, they had a collaboration with Mitsubishi Motors, and I kind of loved that job, because I went to the plant, I learned about all that I was learning on the roadside from the roadside garages. I learned it formally inside the company. I worked in the plant for some time, then worked in the international marketing division. And I think, so I just kind of got into that. And then I worked there for about 7 to 8 years. And then because in India at that point of time, the salaries were still very low. So I was earning 3,500 to 4,000 rupees per month. So I could not even think of buying a apartment. Or at that time, DDA flats, used to be sold in Delhi, and we could not even apply for those DDA flats. So people used to think of going abroad, because you could earn much more. So I got this opportunity in the Middle East, 10 times the salary that I was getting in India. So I took that job. But once I took that job, Eicher decided to, call me back, and they said, we're opening an office in Dubai. Why don't you come and join us in Dubai and expand our operation in Dubai? We'll pay you the same overseas salary that you're getting from this overseas company. So I said, very good. I know you, and you're paying the same salary. The salary was the only issue, so I'll come and join you. So it was a very good experience. I was independently handling and launching a whole operation in Dubai for Eicher Motors in Jandali Free Zone. And that worked for about 4 years, 4.5 years I was there. Then this company which I joined earlier, which had first called me to the Middle East, they called me back saying, we'll make you general manager, come and join us, and we'll pay you 3 or 4 times the salary. So this is just how the progression happens. To my mind, what happened with me was, some of the qualities that people saw in me was that I was very sincere in my job, and they saw that this guy is enthusiastic in terms of, if he's given a job, he will do that job regardless of whether he likes it or not. So the job will be done, right? And it so happened that I started liking what I was doing. And maybe I forced myself, or it so happened that I started liking, and it was automotive. So somewhere subconsciously I liked automotive. And so they called me back, and then while I was with them, I worked in the US also for a year. Didn't like US very well, decided very clearly that staying overseas is not a choice that I'm going to make. There's a wrong choice to make in life. That was my personal opinion. And decided to head back to India. When I decided to head back to India, I chose Tata Motors as one of my target companies. And I applied in Tata Motors. Tata Motors at that time said, okay, I was working in the US at that time. So So they said, you come back to India and then we'll give you a final. They did some interviews and they said, okay, we're selected for final interview, but come to India, we'll do a final interview with our directors and then we'll give you a job. As I was coming back, this company back in Muscat, they said, oh, you're coming back from the US, you come and join back us and we will give you a job immediately. So I thought certainty is better than a little bit of uncertainty. So I joined back that company in Muscat. But while in Muscat, it so happened in 2008, Tata Motors took Jaguar landrover and they decided to launch the brands in India. And because they had my CV and knew that I was a through and through automotive guy, they decided to give me a call amongst many other people. And I was just lucky that I got that job. And I also managed to come back to India, which was my goal. And I was with Tata Motors, which I thought, I wanted to join Tata Motors because Tata is known for its ethics and integrity, etc. And I was very clear that I wanted to join a company which kind of reconciled with my ethics and values. And I got that job. And therefore, after that, of course, I was the first one in the office. So Tata Motors said, this is the office. You're the guy, now you build a team and launch the brands for us in India. This is the international brands already available worldwide, but not available in India. So it was a very exciting opportunity for me, and I was there for almost 14, 15 years. For 5-6 years, I was with Tata Motors first, and then they shifted us, the whole division, to Jaguar Land Rover. They made me MD over there. I became a director with Jaguar Land Rover India. And it was a very interesting journey for me. Very lot of learning. I think, I don't know whether you have any questions to ask. I'll answer those questions, but it was very interesting for me actually.
So, at that point of time, were you sure that you were ready to take that leadership role? Because it's a very big step to handle the whole company, launch it, scale it. So did you ever have doubts about taking that position or scared of it?
Yes. I thought maybe they made a mistake by hiring me. So, but throughout my journey, one principle that I've learned over a period of time, and I think I evolved with this, to have a little bit of fearlessness inside. Because, if एक बहुत अच्छा आजकल एक ऐड आता है ना, डर के आगे जीत है. I think it's very true. I have learned. I mean, when you are fearful, you are not able to achieve it. But when you overcome your fear, then you become a little fearless and a little reckless maybe also. You can fail also, but you can achieve also a lot more than what you can actually lose. So I'll give you 2 examples of this. So in school, when I was in school, I used to be very thin. And I was tall, so a lot of people said you should play basketball. But I was always very shy. I was just thinking, what will people think when I take my shirt off and only wear a banyan and play? I don't know, people, girls will, how will they think? And how will people think? So just because of that fear in my mind, I did not play basketball. I played cricket, but I did not play basketball. And people all the time were encouraging me because of my height. They said you could play basketball, you could be in the school team. But I just did not do that because of the fear I had in my mind that what will others think about me. But I think over a period of time, as I went through my studies, as I went through, I realized that if you don't overcome the fear, you will not, you will forever remain a mediocre. So some risks you will have to take. For example, when I left Aisha, I was doing very well in Aisha, they were very fond of me. But I decided to take that risk of going to Middle East, completely different country. By the way, my personal opinion is never ever go to the Middle East. I would say don't go overseas, but Middle East, don't go. These are clean states. Just an experience that when you reach there, the first thing that they did to me was they took my passport. And the company kept my passport with them. Imagine how scary is that. But because I was being paid 10 times the salary, I decided, okay, a risk to be taken, which I took, but I would not recommend that kind of risk to be taken. But anyway, the point is that fear is something which you should be very, very careful with. If you can overcome fear, you can achieve tremendous things. So that was my one learning. And similarly, when I went to the US, I left everything, good job, etc. And I thought, let me just try the US market. And because I got an H1B visa while I was sitting in Muscat, this is a job which I got while I was sitting in Muscat, because my only sister is in the US, and she wanted me to come to the US. So she took my CV and started floating it around. And it so happened I went through some interviews, etc. Somebody liked my profile, my CV, etc. They liked the interview that I gave, and they said, okay, come and join us. They gave me an H1B visa. And therefore, my family was not very happy. We were, that you go to a different country while you're being well paid, etc. Why go? But then I decided, life is still, there's still much more to go through. So why not take a little risk? Go there and see what happens. Now that experience is not very good, because after a year I turned around and said, I want to go back to India now. I've tasted Middle East, I've gone to the US, I've worked everywhere. Our country is the best here. There is no point in wasting your time anywhere, and that's why I decided to come back. But if I had not done that, maybe I would have still thought that grass is greener on the other side. I should have done that, etc. But because I did that, I took that risk, and therefore I think I was able to achieve more than what I would have achieved if I had stayed with my fears.
Yeah, that was actually what stopped me in the first place, the fear. So I can relate to that. And you shared an incident. We have a photo. So that actually.
Yeah, no, I think that was, you asked me about my...
it summarizes the leadership
Yeah.
that you had.
So you asked me about my leadership style. So I said, I have a colleague of mine, when I actually finished my term with JLR. So a colleague of mine wrote this for me. And this summarizes very well what my leadership style was. If you want to, I don't know if you're able to read this?
Yes.
I'll give you a moment to read this. So, basically, just sharing with you that a leader who's this whole thing, one of my, let's say the way maybe it shaped my mind was some good books that I read very early in my life. One of the books that I read was, I cannot forget the book, was The IBM Way by Buck Rogers. So in that book, Buck Rogers, who was a vice president at that time, sometime in 1986, he actually talks about how IBM became great. And some of the things that he talked about in the book was, respect for people, respect for teams, listening to people, and collaborating with teams, and how not to get sucked into an autocratic style of leadership, how all that works best. So those were some of the qualities which then I read a lot of. I always found that reading books written by leaders themselves were always very helpful. Another book that I read was a book by Lee Iacocca. He was one of the automotive leaders heading Chrysler at that point of time. I also read a book written by Steve Jobs, about Steve Jobs. So I've read a lot of these books written by people who have actually been in corporate life or management, and I learned a lot from them. And therefore, I think my leadership style also evolved out of that and out of my own experiences. But some of the primary things that I learned was that, a leader primarily who communicates well with his team, who respects his team, who doesn't think that he knows all and nobody else knows anything, I think are some of the few qualities which work well. There are other qualities also. To my mind, a leader can be a good leader if he knows about the subject also very well. if he doesn't know the subject, then to lead other people is to my mind, is not easy, and you can fail very easily. But if you know your subject well, and if you are able to respect other people's views, and if you are able to communicate well, you are able to communicate your vision well, and you make sure that everybody in your company or in your team understands that vision very well, I think then the chances of success anywhere is very high.
Being at JLR, you had all the automotive industry experience and you knew the market very well. So, what time in JLR is most memorable for you, the rise which India saw in JLR? What were the difficulties that you faced reaching there?
So I'll tell you in JLR. So when I like I said, when I was hired for JLR, these two brands were not present in India. So, and they thought that maybe these are very high-end brands and very expensive, and it may not be easy for them to sell in India. So they budgeted a very small number for it. And when I was hired, I was the only one, like I said. And they said, you hire a team. But they were not expecting a very large team. They said, maybe, gradually you will start. But I think one was that there were 2-3 things that happened actually. One was, a very nice experience with Mr. Tata himself. So when we actually launched the brands in India, so Mr. Tata came to inaugurate our first showroom, and we had a meeting, internal meeting, and he just came around me and just kept his hand around me and said, Rohit, I leave these brands to you now. That's all that he said. But he kind of put a lot of, I thought, okay, this is a company, there's a person of his stature who's trusting me to do something. Right? That itself was a driving force for me to make sure that I don't fail on his small expectation that take care of the brands. Right? So I think starting from there, studying the market thoroughly, understanding the automotive market, understanding the various segments, understanding how the channels work, understanding who the customers are, understanding that a team can play a very important role. So each and every guy that I took into my team, I interviewed them myself. Each and every person. Till the time I was there, I was always interviewing people myself. I along with other people, but I always led it from the front. So therefore, I think very slowly and steadily, basically we built the market, and interesting story I tell you. So in Tata, they didn't have very high hopes from the brands because they had their own Tata Indica, Tata, all the other brands, all the other models. They were working a lot on that, and they were doing fairly well, and they were progressing well. So they thought this will add some volume, but not very high. But so we imported 6 cars in the beginning, just 6 cars. And the first 6 cars, when they came to the showroom, so the architect who was building the showroom, he along with 2 of his colleagues came to see the cars. And believe me, in front of my eyes, they threw their kerchief, they took out their handkerchief and threw it on the cars. I said, this is my car, this is my car, this is my car. Within 5 minutes, the showroom had not been opened yet, all the 6 cars were gone. Imagine. And these cars were in the range of, at that point of time, 60 to 70 lakhs each. Right? So everybody was surprised. Well, I had worked in the automotive industry and I knew that there would be a market. But I didn't know that it would go up so fast. Because people like, it's like, that आप बस में बैठते हो तो कभी you throw your kerchief, ये मेरा सीट. Like that. ये गाड़ी किसी को देना नहीं है मेरा. And it takes about 2 months at that time, 2-3 months to get cars. So the 6 cars were gone and we didn't have any cars in the showroom to keep when we opened the showroom. All the cars were booked. So from there on, slowly, we understood how the market should be. And it was not easy. Once you go in the industry, you realize that there are each year was a challenge for us. The government would increase duty. Suddenly the duty was, I think at one point in time, 70%. Overnight on 1st March or something, when the budget comes out, they increase it from 70% to 110%. Right? But imagine you have ordered cars, right? Which are priced and booked by customer, calculating on a 70% base. When the cars actually arrive, the duty is 110%. So actually you lose a lot of money, but you already given your word to the customer, you can't go back. So to manage all these things, this is where the real challenge comes. This is the real life. Because the company will say, you're making a lot of loss, my friend. What are you doing? What happened? You couldn't manage your inventory very well. You couldn't order the cars properly. So who can explain? I don't know. The government suddenly on 1st of March, raised the duty from 70 to 110. What could I do? Sorry, that's not an answer that you can give. So there were many challenges. We had to start looking at localizing the cars, because without localization you cannot get the duty benefit. But there are a lot of ifs and buts about localization to manage. There are two different cultures. The UK culture and the Indian culture are very different. UK was not very confident that India would be able to make the cars like the way they do in the UK. Convince them, to make sure everybody is convinced that you get the cars here, you get them made here. So believe me, each and every year of that 14-15 years that I spent was very challenging. Every year were very exciting and very fulfilling, I would say.
Thank you, sir. That was very inspiring, and I know there are more inspiring stories, but this is a session so short to just cover those. Lastly, what is the one line that you would like to advise the youngsters, the students here, the aspiring entrepreneurs, to keep it going, to reach the step, to reach the success peak?
I would say two things, right? So, I follow this lighthouse principle for me, right? One of my lighthouse principles has been honesty and integrity. It's a very simple thing, but believe me, you are challenged on this every day in your working career. But if you're very clear in your mind that I will not compromise on that principle, right? It will pay you you will get paid plentiful as you go along. So I have followed this principle and I have stood by it. I have been in companies who have told me, please go and pay a bribe to this person, because we can't do this job. This vehicle will not get certified. See, I'll just give you one example of this, and this is about JLR. So when you get cars into India, they have to be homologated, because they should comply with the automotive standards of India. That's one. And then each RTO authority in the country also has to certify that you can sell the car in this state. So when the cars came to Bombay first, one of the guys who was following up with RTO authorities to actually get the certificate for them, for us to be able to sell the car, and then the customer would be able to register the car. He said, sir, उसका मुंह खुला है, सर वो मांग रहे कुछ, नहीं तो वो नहीं करेंगे, ऐसा तो होता ही नहीं। तो my principle very clear, ऐसे कोई चांस ही नहीं है। तुम रोज जाओ, रोज जाके बैठो, नहीं करेगा तो नहीं करेगा, पर तुम जाके बैठो, just go and sit there, whether he does it or not, forget that, just go and sit there. So this guy would go there, his name was Shirodkar. So Shirodkar would go and sit there every day, as per my instruction. And he used to come back every day, sir, नहीं हो रहा है, कुछ करना पड़ेगा। सर कोई चांस ही नहीं है, हम बंद कर देंगे, हम बिजनेस नहीं करेंगे, लेकिन ये काम हम I will not do it. Then he used to come and tell me story. He said, sir वो क्लर्क बोलता है, वो फ्लाइंग तो वो पड़ा है, लेकिन मेरा हाथ में दर्द हो रहा है, हाथ पहुंचता नहीं होगा। आप लोग देखो बारिश, बॉम्बे में बारिश हो रही है, आप तो छाता भी देने के लिए तैयार नहीं हो, तो आप लोग को कैसे, मेरा हाथ भी नहीं पहुंच रहा है कैसे, right? But ultimately what happened was assistance paid because the guy was going every day. He said अगर आप नहीं बोलोगे तो हम मीडिया में जाएंगे, हम ये करेंगे. So then that guy only buckled. He said कि ये तो यहाँ से तो कुछ होने वाला है, so better clear the field. And this is one example. I have come through this kind of incidents, at least 10 to 20 times in my local side. GST official coming in wanting some money, labor officer saying that I want to come and inspect your office. Come and inspect your office. No, but chai pani भी मिलेगा, पानी भी मिलेगा, उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं. Right? So to my mind, it has always helped me when I follow this principle, fearlessness. So the other thing attached to this is fearlessness. What will happen? Your boss will get angry that your thing did not move. Fine. Accept that compromise, but don't compromise on your principle. This is my learning. And this is what I advise my children. I would advise you guys also the same.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a great session.